The meeting is being live streamed.
Okay,
Got it.
got it.
Stop sharing your screen. Uh, got it. Alrighty.
Okay. Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to the YJA Executive Board Elections pre-interview workshop. If you're on this call, that means you've received an interview for at least one position in the e-board elections. You should be very proud of yourself and be really happy because it means that we basically see a lot of potential in you and the value that you can add to YJA. This workshop is going to be about 45 minutes, and the first 15 or 20 minutes is going to cover some tips and logistics about the interview process. And then we're going to leave the majority of the time for Q&A so that you can answer any questions that you have about interviewing or how to be successful for your interview. We're joined on the call by other members of our executive board. And so all these folks have served in some of the roles that you might be interested in applying to, and you should definitely use them as a resource during this call and ask them any questions that you have about their experiences as well. And with that, we can get started. During the course of this webinar, you'll see a QR code on the bottom left-hand.
Yeah, the live stream is not working.
Wait, it's live now. It's live now. It's live now. I can see it.
Okay, restart.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Apologies for the delay in getting started. We had some technical issues, but excited to get started now. Welcome to the elections interview workshop for YJA for this e-board cycle. If you are on this call and have received an interview invite, you should be very proud of yourself. It basically means that we see a lot of potential and the value that you can bring to YJA as a whole. Over the course of the next 45 minutes, we will cover some content and leave the majority of the time for Q&A. But we're going to cover some basics on interview logistics, what types of questions to expect during your interview, as well as tips on how to nail your interview and have it go very successfully. Throughout the presentation, you'll see a QR code on the bottom left-hand corner of the slide. This QR code leads to an anonymous question form. And so if at any point during the course of this webinar you have any questions, feel free to drop them at this form and we'll address all of them towards the end. So with that, we can get started and I'll hand it over to Romit to talk through some of the logistics.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Romit. I'm this year's Director of Project Development. And again, as Ria said, we're so proud and so thankful that you guys applied and so excited to begin the interview process. So just some things pre-interview. The interview for most of you will be 30 to 45 minutes long. If you're interviewing specifically for the co-chair position, the Director of Project Development position, or the Director of Events position, your interview will be a little longer, 45 to 60 minutes. A current YJ executive board member will be calling you at the phone number you provided during your application. And when we email you to schedule the interview, we will again reiterate that phone number to make sure it's the right phone number. And yeah, we'll get the call. We'll call you directly. So there's no Zoom or anything else for you to hop onto. There might be other executive board members listening in on the call. Again, I think all of us are so excited to hear from you and hear your great ideas and things like that. So we're all trying to hop on and kind of listen to you interview. Please let elections@yja.org know as soon as you can if your schedule changes and you're unavailable to have your interview at the time emailed to you. Again, like we're in the process of sending out emails that confirm your interview time. If once you confirm something changes, please let us know ASAP. Next, we recommend that you are kind of ready for your interview at least 5 minutes before. We're going to call you promptly at the time we said, but definitely don't want you to, miss the call or be in an area of loud noise or anything like that when we call. And that leads to the last point. We definitely recommend that you be in a quiet area with strong audio reception, just so we can make sure we have a seamless interview and so that, we can clearly hear all your great ideas and answers. But I hand it off to Samir now to continue speaking about some logistics.
Awesome. Yeah. So my name is Samir. I am this year's Mid-Atlantic Regional Coordinator, and I have some information about during the interview, what to expect, and what exactly you will be participating in. So basically, the interview will follow a Q&A type format. So I'll be asking questions, you'll be giving answers like a typical interview. Do not be alarmed during the interview if your interviewer gives a short response to your answer. So we've been instructed to remain neutral on call and follow a tight interview schedule. So that way, we give all interviewers the best chance possible, and that way we can really listen to what you are saying. It is also typical to experience a long pause after you answer a question. This is to provide the interviewer some time to take notes on your response. We want to make sure that we get everything that you are saying, so that way we can give you the best chance possible. And then we pass on to the next person.
So after the interview, it may take a few days, up to a few weeks to hear back about your decision regarding your interview and application. And just keep in mind that our timeline is impacted by the various interview availabilities and our e-board's availabilities to review and discuss and vote on the candidates. So, and also just keep in mind that not every single applicant will be following the same interview timeline, and there will be multiple methods of being considered for an executive board position, such as through application or nomination. And these timelines for each one of these various processes can vary significantly. And please keep all the details of your interview process and questions to yourself and confidential, so that it's fair to everybody who's applying before and after, and who's interviewing after or before you.
Hi everyone, my name is Madhvi. I am this year's West Regional Coordinator, and I'll be going over interview format. So regardless of whatever position you're applying to, your interview will have a combination of both behavioral and situational questions. The behavioral questions will include some things about prior experience and your vision and role for YJA. And your situational questions will include on how you will respond to difficult scenarios you may encounter in your role. So yeah, that's interview format, and I'll pass it on to the next person.
Hey everyone, I'm Disha. I am the Director of Education for YJA this year. So something else that we're doing this year to help everyone better prepare for the interview is giving you guys some questions ahead of time, so you can kind of have an idea of what to expect, and so that everyone's kind of on the same level coming into it. So all these questions have been emailed out to you, but also they're on the screen. So the first question is all about why you want to run for board, what made you decide to apply. The second question is, given your background, why are you most suitable for this role, right? Why are you the one that we should elect for next year? The third question is, based on your perspective or prior engagement with YJA, what are some potential changes that you'd like to see with the initiatives led by the specific role that you are interviewing for? The next question is talking about a previous experience or work project that you've done that has helped you prepare for this role. So again, kind of talking about your experiences. And then the last question is, what is the challenge YJA faces that you want to address as part of this role? So these are just some things that you should definitely think about before your interview.
Hello, it's Millen here from fundraising. So you guys are all great candidates, but we want to make you from great to excellent. So some quick tips we have for you is, first off, refresh us on your written application and work product. This is your job and it's your time to bring your story to life. So use words, get us excited about what you're excited about. It'll be a good time. And then understand the day-to-day of what you're applying to. So annual report's going to come out shortly. That can be a quick refresher as to what we've done this past year and how you can build on those initiatives, adapt them, revise them, whatever you want to do. With that, also for tip 3, be specific in your responses and tell us what you know about YJA's processes. What do you want to do? What value do you want to add to those processes, and kind of add your own legacy if you reflect on your term a year later. Also, talk about experiences outside of YJA. You guys are all students, you've had jobs, internships, you've volunteered. We want to hear about that and see what other experiences you bring to the table. Aside from that, step 5 is very, very important. Make sure your vision for YJA and your role is very clear. Think about it this way. If you were in this position next year, how would YJA be different? What value can you individually bring to the table, and how do you want to convey that in the context of YJA? Following that, also talk to current YJ board members and alumni for their reflections. We've all seen a lot of things. We've all had our own journeys along the way. We want to talk to you and make sure you feel comfortable as you go through this process. Along with that, practice interviewing with the questions that we provided and make sure your questions kind of meet the descriptions as well. Use your imagination. Think, if I apply for technology or fundraising, what can I be asked? And make sure you feel prepared as you come into the interview this coming week. Also practice with a friend, very, very important. Next time you're playing basketball or whatever you're doing, talk to your friend, talk to your buddy, your pal, your Kumon tutor, and really kind of figure out, how can I convey my points in a comfortable environment? And finally, step 9, be confident. We're all about the same age as you, right? We're in our 20s, we're in different parts of life, but still we have the same shared experiences. So think of us as friends who you're talking to and make sure you're comfortable and confident talking to us. So with that, we're very, very excited to see you guys in the coming few weeks interview for YJA. And we'll move on to our next stop of the webinar.
Awesome. So I know there was a lot of content thrown at you. All of this is also available in the interview guide that was emailed to you as part of your interview invitation. So feel free to go back into that email and click the document for notes on any of this in more detail. Next, we're going to move on to a Q&A portion. And so as we mentioned in one of the tips, like reaching out to prior board members and asking them about their experiences, this is your shot to do it right now. So feel free to go ahead and fill out the Q&A form. Feel free to ask as many questions as you would like, and it is fully anonymous. We'll be reading out loud the question and answering it to the best of our abilities. For anyone who's just joining us right now, the live stream is going to be uploaded onto YouTube as well at this very link. And so you'll be able to catch up on anything that you might have missed at the beginning. The first question is, how is it determined who sits in on your interview? So basically, your interview would be conducted by the person who's currently in the position that you're applying to. And then outside of that, we encourage as many board members who are available to get on the call to be on the call. And so it really varies from interview to interview based off of board member availability. But at a minimum, you'll have at least one member of our elections committee, as well as the person currently in that role, and then as many other board members who are available.
The next question is, what has been the hardest part about being on board? Do you want to chime in here?
Great question. Honestly, I think it's when you get on a board, there's so many cool projects and things that you can work on. And honestly, sometimes I find it being hardest to kind of pick and choose the things that you do want to work on and the things that you are passionate about. And kind of, making sure that you can enjoy your board term, balance your time, and still kind of get to, work on things. There's just so many different initiatives and projects that YJ works on that sometimes it's hard to figure out which ones or which select few you actually have the time to work on. So I actually thought that was one of the harder parts in terms of just, figuring out where I want to make my impact.
Okay, the next question is, what has been the most rewarding part about being on board? Disha, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, I think for me, the most rewarding part was just seeing the impact that you can have on our community as director of education, putting on different sessions and events and seeing people coming out to those sessions, as well as, putting out different resources and seeing the amount of engagement that occurs with all the different things that we do. It's really great to be able to put in all this hard work that's positively impacting our community and different members in the YJ community and beyond. So at least for me, that was the most rewarding part.
Great. The next question is, when will I know when my interview is? Rupal, do you want to answer that question?
Sure. So we'll get back to you within, like, after your interview, within a few days to a few weeks about the decision after that. And specifically, sorry, the specific question is, when will you know when your interview is? I think you'll find out yeah, actually, wait, can you?
Yeah, if you haven't already received a time and date for your interview, you'll be getting an email within the next couple of days to schedule that. Okay, the next question is, will any of the questions from the written application be asked again? Samir, do you want to take this?
Yeah, so none of the questions will be specifically asked again. The one thing I will say is definitely take a look at your written application before the interview, because you might be asked to expand on some of those ideas that you said or some of those experiences that you've mentioned before. So it's always a good idea to take a look at what you submitted to us originally and to expand on those ideas as you prepare for your interview.
Great. Okay, the next question is, could you expand upon the decision process after the interview? Does the whole executive board decide on the applicant? Aniva, do you want to take that question?
Yeah. So after your interview, we'll holistically look through everything, your written application, your work product, and your interview, and the entire executive board will decide if you are a strong candidate for this position or not. So make sure that every piece of the application is a strong result.
Great. Next question was, did an idea or goal that you talked about in your interview come to fruition? Millen, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like in my scope as fundraising director, a lot of people who aren't in the fundraising side of things feel uncomfortable reaching out in terms of gathering donations or helping YJA financially. But with that, myself and the rest of the e-board and even Parks Convention Committee created this program called Texas Tycoons. We were able to bring on close to 75 unique campaigners to help raise funds for YJA. So I think democratizing different processes across the workflow has been very, very rewarding for me. And others can also speak to it too in terms of project teams, other committees they've been a part of. So those kind of involving more voices in the picture has been a huge point of reflection and growth for all of us, I think, this past year.
Cool. The next question is, will you let us know even if we don't get the position? Disha, do you want to take this?
Yeah, if you don't get the position, you will know via email. The timeline is going to vary based on each position and kind of how it pans out. But yeah, you will hear back from the elections committee on the decision.
Awesome. Before we continue on to more questions, going to flash up the QR code for the question form again. Feel free to use this QR code to access the form where we're accepting all the questions for this portion. One of the next questions was, will we get to know if we did not receive the position or we were not elected into the position? For this one, Disha, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, so kind of as I was just saying, you will hear back from the elections committee on the status of your interview, whether you got the position or didn't get the position. You will be hearing either way.
Great. So next we have a question on how many interviews will take place. Roman, do you want to take that?
Yep, sure. So there's for each of you that got your interview, you're gonna have one singular interview. Again, the time of the interview is gonna be approximately 30 to 45 minutes, unless you applied for the director of events, director of project development, or co-chair, in which case it's 45 minutes to an hour, but that is the only interview you're gonna have. And then you'll hear back after that interview.
Great. Our next question is, how many people are being interviewed for each position? And Rupal, do you want to take this question?
Yep. So we can't say how many people are being interviewed for this position, as the interview process is meant to be completely blind to make it as fair as possible.
Awesome. So the next question is the elections committee, the current e-board, So Roman, do you want to take this question?
Yep. Not entirely. The elections committee is a very small subset of the current executive board. Everyone on the elections committee is not running for any position next year. And this is to make sure the elections process is fair for everyone.
Awesome. I'm going to flash up the QR code again in case you have any questions. Again, this is a good opportunity for you to also ask questions that are more position specific. So if you're applying to a specific position and would like to get to know more about what has been historically done in that position, what the challenges of that position are, this is a great opportunity to ask those questions as well. Go back to the question form. There's a question, do all board members read your application or just the current person in that position? Shaylee, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, sure. So everyone can look at your application, work product, resume. So all board members can have an equal vision of what your application package looks like before making a decision.
And just to add to that, anyone who's voting on your application will have definitely read your application. So we want to make sure that all voting is done based off of the materials that you submit to us, as well as your interview responses only. Okay, the next question is, will everyone get the same amount of time to prepare for their interview as defined as the time between getting the date of your interview and the actual interview? Ria Mehta, do you want to take that question?
Sure. Hi, guys. No, so it kind of depends on when the interview is scheduled. But if for any reason you do need more time to prepare, if you have any concerns, let us know and we will definitely do our best to work with you and figure that out.
Awesome. Our next question is, do all applicants receive an interview? Okay, Roman, do you want to take that question?
Yep. So the answer is unfortunately no. We did spend the last few days reviewing all of your written applications, your resumes, your work products, etc., to narrow down who does get an interview. And this is to respect both our time and the time of each of you that applied. So no, unfortunately, not everyone does get an interview.
Okay, our next question is, are all parts of your application, including the resume, written work, products, interview, all weighted equally? And Shaylee, do you want to answer this question?
Yeah, sure. Basically, when we receive all of the parts of the application, we're kind of painting a picture of a really holistic application. So not one part of this matters more than the other, but it does vary candidate by candidate based on what you're presenting.
I'll flash up the QR code again so you have a chance to access the form to ask questions. I think as we kind of wait for some of the questions to come in, I would love to ask board members kind of what their reflections were from their interview process, kind of what was going through your head and what prepared you to be successful in the interview. So Mila, not sure if you want to share about like, what was your personal interview experience like, and what helped you kind of get through it, and how did you prepare personally?
Yeah, absolutely. I was very, very nervous, to be honest with you guys. I applied in the past and did not get the position at that point. So I was like, all right, here we go again. Let's see what happens. But I think the mentality that really changed for me here was, again, I'm being interviewed by kids who are a couple years above or below in age of me. And I know it's a very formal environment, but also we have one goal, that's to advance Jainism and our youth presence in America. So in the scope of that, this is not a job interview. This is more so saying what skills can you bring to the table. It's not about finding the best candidate. It's about finding the best fit of candidate, the best personality and the best ideas. You don't have to have a 4.0 GPA or 36 to be on YJA board. To have to be passionate and excited to be on part of the board, as part of this group, community project and team. So I think for me, it's just kind of living through with that mentality throughout those 30 minutes of my interview and saying, these guys can be my friends outside of the interview. It's really not that deep. So for you guys as well, when interviews start up in this or the coming week, just again, keep in mind, we're all in our 20s. We're all similar to you outside of this environment. So please, like we're here to help you and be assets along the way.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's really great feedback. I think one of the other things personally for me that I was thinking of when I was interviewing was like, do I have to have a lot of YJA experience to be successful in the interviews? It definitely helps, but what if I don't have as much YJA experience? So Neva, if you're on, would love to hear some of your reflections on kind of what types of experiences that you brought into your interview, given that this was one of your first touch points getting involved in YJA.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. As like a backstory, I went to the convention. I had no idea about any of the other events. I literally was just a convention attendee. And I really wanted to get involved, and I saw that like applications were coming out. So first I was like, what's the worst that can happen? Might as well give it a try. And definitely there were some things that like I knew that like YJ had a website as like director. I was playing for director channel. I knew that there's some things like, I didn't really know how things ran or how things were internally, because I didn't have any like YJ experience into how YJ runs their things. But definitely just like doing as much research as I can. And I was really honest during my interview time that I don't have that experience through YJ, but that's why I'm here. Like I'm here to gain that experience now. And this is like what I've done in my past that may help me in this position. But it's not necessary for you to have YJ experience to get in. There's definitely other, like it could be a school club, it could be a college internship. Like there's definitely a lot of places you can gain in like experience that could also be very helpful for this. And just to know that like it's for the youth itself, right? So we're all learning here. Like nobody here is an expert in anything. So like don't ever be scared that like you need to be an expert in something. So it's okay if you don't have like experience. Like it was such a smooth and easy process. Just say like from your heart, like this is what I work on, this is what I'm passionate on. And this is like what I enjoy doing. And I think it'll be good.
Thanks for that honest answer. Great. So next question that we have is, for any current RCs, what is the best and most challenging part about your position? Samir, do you want to answer this first, and then Ria, you can answer it after that?
Yep, for sure. So for clarification, for those of you who don't know, I am this year's Mid-Atlantic Regional Coordinator. And one of the best parts of my role is definitely seeing the impact I've made on attendees, whether it be first-time attendees, returning attendees to any in-person, virtual events. YJ had a huge impact on me before I applied, and it was great seeing what I could give back to the community in their faces as they're leaving retreats, as they're leaving any virtual events, national dinners, or any in-person events or virtual events that I have thrown over the year. That was one of the coolest parts. I think in terms of the challenging parts, sometimes coming with new creative ideas can be a little hard, and trying to keep attendees entertained or keep coming back, or maybe even reaching out to newer attendees, because there was a 2-year gap in terms of in-person events or virtual events. So trying to get those people to continue to come back to events or reaching out to new people to make our community grow could be some sort of a challenge. But throughout the year, you learn different ways to strategize and make sure that this isn't like a big challenge for your position and can actually make an impact on both new and old attendees.
Thanks. Ria, do you have any reflections about the best and most challenging part about being an RC?
Sure, yeah. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm currently the South Regional Coordinator. I would definitely say the best part was really just planning all of the events, the local events in each city, especially like retreats, really seeing just your region come together and how close people can get through these events has been a lot of fun, especially working with the LRs who've had a lot of different ideas for events has been great, especially like navigating COVID was difficult this year, and we had to do a few like our in-person events were a little limited, but like we definitely navigated it. So that's the best part. I would say like the most challenging is probably really trying to like find the new people in your region who kind of might not know about YJA and get them involved and get them coming out to these local events. Especially when like for me, there wasn't really an event in my city. And most of the local events happen in cities where I couldn't go. And so it's really like the challenging part was trusting that, you know, the event could still take place without me being there, and hoping that like, you know, new people would come see what YJ has to offer and get more involved.
Awesome. Thanks for that answer, Ria. The next question was, what are some qualities that you're looking for from a candidate? Shaylee, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I think that every year YJA grows bigger and bigger. So I think when you come onto board, the biggest thing is just to be super open to embracing how much it's growing, like things changing. I think that having an openness to grow and improve your leadership skills, having a lot of passion for the organization or the work that you are about to do. And then I think Niva said this earlier, but you don't have to know like the ABCs and everything about YJA to be successful in your role. So what we're looking for is just like knowing that you've had past experiences where you were able to show dedication and commitment and kind of a love for learning and adapting to new situations. But each candidate is different. Each board member, even on our board, has different personalities and something really unique to bring to the table. So just be yourself, be genuine, and I think that'll take you far.
Awesome. Next, our question is, do you have to come in with a concrete new idea that you want to execute in your position? So for this one, Tisha, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely good to come in with some initial ideas, but it's definitely going to change throughout the year. I know for myself, I came in with some ideas, but there's always different things like taking on what like the previous person at a position did, or collaborating with like other board members will come up with new ideas. So while I was able to like act on a couple of the new ideas I had, I think my favorite new ideas actually came after board started and I was able to collaborate with different board members.
Awesome. Our next question is, how did being on board connect you more to Jainism? Niva, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of things that I realized, like I did Pachala growing up, like a long time ago, but after like some certain point, like it becomes really hard to do it. And I lost a lot of connection. That's actually what motivated me to like join YJ again. And just seeing the community, even like how we're able to build, like we're able to eat Jain and vegan food, like that actually inspired me to turn vegan. The amount of like Swadhyaya events and Pachala Younger Minds, like all these like initiatives that we've done to like enforce like Jainism, not enforce, but like teach people about Jainism has definitely like got me like more inspired into Jainism as I've learned a lot.
Awesome, thank you. Milan, do you have any reflections to share about that as well?
Yeah, I think for me, especially being born and raised in America, like most of you, Jainism felt more like a lifestyle to me, just practicing kindness and compassion. But I don't really have much Pachala religious base to kind of go off of growing up, just given the smaller son size in Cleveland. So being a part of YJA board, I was able to access so many more resources, learn from directors of education and others about how to kind of best connect from more of a spiritual standpoint. So very, very grateful to kind of have that access and really know what's out there from more that spiritual versus active standpoint I've been living for the past few years.
Thank you. The next question is, when you apply for a region-specific role, such as an RC, how does that fit into the vision of YJA as a whole? Is there a lot of collaboration between RCs? Rupal, do you want to take this question?
Yeah. So I think when you apply as an RC, you're like you have the opportunity to influence, like what you do in your region can become a model or example for other regions as well. So whenever we want to execute an idea, it's a good idea to start somewhere small, and a region or a city is a great place to start. And once you prove that it can work at that level, we can expand that to a national level. So that in that way, it's helping shape vision of YJ, because if you can make it successful in your area, then it's like a model for being able to be expanded to other areas. And then also whatever culture, whatever vision you have, you work with other RCs on a weekly basis and other directors too. And what culture and what vision you have also inspires others. So you may not view it immediately, but how the interactions you have that you work with on people on a weekly basis will cause ripple effects.
Awesome. Thanks, Rupal. We have another question. How many years of experience did each of you have in YJA before you applied? Romit, do you want to take this question?
Yep. Can't speak for everyone, but going to try to generalize it. I think most of us might have done a year of being an LR or maybe on a committee, but not much more experience within YJ itself when we first applied for board. And then I think from there, a lot of us did gain experience, whether it was our first year on board or our first year being on convention committee and here on out. So I think to answer your question, most of us just were just LRs or committee members, and some of us didn't even do that and kind of applied for board. But so it's not really like experience is a bottleneck to be on board. It's always great because you become more familiar with different projects and initiatives, and so you might know what you might want to work on when you are on board, but it's definitely not a bottleneck or requirement to be on board. And I'm sure I can speak, the first time I applied for board, I'd never been involved in YJ at all. So yeah.
Awesome. Our next question is for Director of Education. Do you need to have more J knowledge, or what do you do in case that you need to double check information? So I'll pass it off to Disha, our Director of Education.
Yeah, I think for this question, it definitely is important as Director of Education to have a background in Jane knowledge. I can say for myself, like I'm a YJA teacher, I participated in JAB, but I think all the different Directors of Educations have had like different levels of Jane knowledge coming in. And we definitely do not have all the answers, but we have a lot of resources. There are a lot of people within our YJ community or people who have just aged out of the YJ community that are always a resource. I know that I've talked to a lot of people. And then there's also contacts in like India, like Masadijis and Mard Sahibs that we reach out to from time to time when we need things to get reviewed or if we're not sure what to do in certain situations. So while it is important to have a strong Jane background, you definitely are never going to have all the answers, and there are resources for you to kind of go about making different decisions and doing the right thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Disha. That concludes the last question that we had. Thank you all for tuning in. And again, if you have any questions for any specific board members, feel free to find our emails at yja.org/board. All of our emails are there, and feel free to reach out and continue the Q&A. But we wish you the best of luck. We're very confident that you'll do a great job, and we're so excited to get to know you a little bit better over the course of these interviews.